So this is the Huiyuan Temple. This is one of the most ancient villages in Wuyi Mountain. Of course, everyone moved out. The tea over here is very famous, and also the location here. This kind of a crossroads for all the famous tea dips and creeks. So it's a very important place. And this building itself is actually very old. The words on both sides, the big words, the calligraphy, is said to be written by one of the premiers during Song Dynasty that make it over 1,000-year-old. It's very, very ancient. So we just arrived at the temple. This is the biggest temple in there. There are many temples around here. This is a temple called Tianxin Yongle Si, means heavenly heart, forever happiness. The very famous Great Red Robe is in this temple. I mean, not in the temple, but it's the monks of this temple are the ones make the Great Red Robe when it was in production. The production has stopped many years ago. This is the 去年的时候还有 So I'm once again in the Wuyi mountain area. There's all these look familiar. See, there are people actually taking tea back. This is still in the morning, but there are these people probably got up around 6 or 7 and picked some teas already. We passed by many people carrying tea off this morning. This is the famous Horsehead Rock. These are rogui. Remember, there are 2 top locations for rogui. One is the cow fence dip, and the other one is the Horsehead Rock. Now you can see why it's called Horsehead Rock. I think these 2 look very much like horses. There are supposed to be 5 horses here. I'll film it all and then you can find them. Now, these 2 are facing the wrong direction, of course. Now as we walk down a little deeper, we're walking towards Wuyi, which is one of the 2 creeks. Remember, the top 5 locations for cliff tea, even within the True Cliff region, is what they call the 3 dip and 2 creeks. Horsehead Rock is actually outside of that. This is what we talk about, like it's certain locations for certain variety. So this is one of the top locations for rogui. Now, there's actually a village here. There were people living in the Wuyi mountain area. By the way, I don't know how to say it. Even 20 years ago, the Wuyi mountain area is very, very rural. The little township that I stay in that now has probably 300,000 people. The population in the 90s was 300. Even under the Horsehead Rock, there was actually a village here. Also the Huiyuan place, there's a village here. But everybody moved out. So a lot of the villages down the hill, those are the original populations here. Want to see? I think there's a room here. You can see. These are all fairly recent. There's still some ruins there. And this is the original Horsehead Rock. The village was down here. You know, there's a saying here that every dip in the Wuyi mountain has tea tree, and it's always the tiny dip, like the little ones that people plant here. Oops, almost fell. Are the best ones. 这个就是也是乌元剑的留下来的。对，这一条都是属于。Yeah, so 乌元剑。剑 basically means the little water that flows down the dip. Ignore the signs. Sometimes people will pay to just put the signs there. So see, it's all these like a little tiny strips of tea trees. That's what's worth the most. And that also gives you a sense of the production here. It's very, very low. There's some over there as well. Keep walking. Oh, so it's a little effort that I got up here. He then mentioned that a lot of people took me for just a handsome boy. So anyway, remember they had to just pull the tea out. 是在采什么呀？
采怎么了？采什么啊？
这是什么品种啊？
这个是
这菜茶。This is actually wild tea.
什么茶啊？
A lot of them from outside, they don't really know.
老板娘我也不知道。
They said, ask the boss.
我拿个可能这个的，拿看这个的。
Remember, you can't use your nail.
快一点
That'll
啊！
actually. 你看，再拍一下。
Did
Did I mention already that it smells so good here? It's the flower smell, not the tea. I think more or less has to do with what it does to the tea tree. Maybe that's what gives it. Remember, for cliff tea, the top cliff tea, what they say is rock bone and then floral aroma. And this is what it is. See how fast this lady plucks the tea. I mean, of course, like for oolong tea, it's very different from like green tea. But basically, you pluck 3 leaves. That's called one kaimian. I'm like snail speed, but these people they're super fast, and they because these tea trees are so so tender and crisp. It's like you just touch it and it falls out. But like some of the places I've been to where it's much older, they had to wear a blade on their finger to cut it. But these are very tender. They're very fast, and they can always pick the right ones.
有些它这个可能也就是明后天就采了，
是吧？
就过1-2天就采了。
Yeah. So let's take a closer look. So, because in the last video, there was actually a tiny creek between me and the plant. But like over here.
这种叶子呢，明后天可能就可以。
Yeah, like this one. See, it's a leaf already, but still it's kind of banded and curvy. It takes kind of like a sprout kind of shape. It's not ready yet. They usually take 是3面半是吧？所以就1、2、3。
3片半啊。
3片半，就从这里开始。
等这一片再长大了就可以了。
Yeah, so they're waiting for the top of the one to completely open up. So like, where was the one that opened up? 这个呢？
这个还不能采。
Yeah, this one is still not ready. So it's still curvy. So it's really important for it to completely open up. If it's too tender, they cannot do it. But this one, she's thinking the day after tomorrow it will be ready.
水仙的那个青苔树上啊，还挂满了。
是吧？ Yeah, so this is like the how do you call it, the micro thing that's growing on the plant. This is a special trait of all the true cliff teas, and this is one of the things that give the true cliff tea some different flavor. Is this green stuff, and on Shui Xian as well. This is Rogui, and the one thing you can see is, first of all, it's very rocky, and also the earth is red. It's actually a very thin layer of earth on the bottoms, all rocks. So now I'm at the half cliff region of the Wuyi area. This, as you can see, the terrain is much more leveled. Over there, you can see, but it's still the Wuyi area. You can still see the signature rocky terrain of the Wuyi mountain. And over there, actually, in between this one and that one, there's a river. Is that river divides the true cliff region and the half cliff region. And you can also tell from the color that this part in the middle is already plucked, but the two greener sides on the sides, they haven't been plucked yet. The tea leaves finally are dried because it was raining until around 2 o'clock this afternoon. So the farmers was gonna wait until the sun come up and then the leaves dry so they can pluck the tea, but it didn't dry it early enough, and it'll get dark soon, so they're just gonna wait till tomorrow. And another thing to note is that in the True Cliff region, majority of the teas we saw are Rogui and Xian, versus in the Half Cliff region, there are much more varieties of tea. So most of the variety teas, is really rare that you have a true cliff of that version. So this is one of the first steps of making cliff tea, where they put in here, so let the tea wilt, and then what they do is actually, this is charcoal in this thing, and the heat will feed into this funnel and feeds into the thing to keep the tea warm. It helps the tea to ferment. 杀青的时候温度就高一些。
对。
Yeah, so now it's the step that they kill the enzyme. This whole thing just in this machine takes around 7 hours. So this one, these batches were put in the afternoon, so the smell is more prominent. It smells so much better than over there, which they just put in the tea. So every several minutes after they heated the tea, they basically roll it. And what we saw in the temple, the monks actually used the hand to roll it. But now we're actually, seeing a machine. This is more common, and actually in Taiwan, it's even more developed. They don't use the charcoal to heat the tea. This machine will heat itself. But over here, it's kind of like a semi-manual. They still heat the tea with charcoal, but they rolled it. Yeah. So this is Rogui. Yeah, it's a little smaller leaves, and it's a very big batch. But the thing is, no matter if it's a larger batch or a smaller batch, it does not take any time off the production's process. No matter what, you still gotta cook. It's follow every single steps, and so the time that is consumed is all the same. It's just whether you use machine to make it or use hands. By the way, almost no places still hand make wulong because it's very, very labor intense. The monks probably the only ones they do that, and they only make less than a pound a day. Also, here's a very important point. So we were saying that it probably takes 7 hours to do this, but that's just, I mean, everybody say the number is different. This is very important. All the farmers I talk to, they all say the same thing. Basically, they cannot give you an accurate number. It can last as long as over 10 hours because each batch of tea is very different, and that's what make a awesome experienced tea maker is that he or she is able to tell when the tea is ready, and it's so much variables. It all depends basically. Now this is a batch that was put in a little earlier, so they're checking to see if it's ready to be stir fried. 还不能炒是吧？还不能炒。Oh, he said it's still gonna be a few hours away for this stir fried tea. But now you can see the color from the other ones. The wilting, what it does to the tea is basically give it, if it's perfectly made tea, it'll give it a red edge, but the center will still be red. Usually it's not as even as that. So here the tea is getting stir-fried. Now this is a very vital step. Remember, for the tea that does get the grain peeled, once you peel the grain, there's no way going back. So you have to time it really well to make sure that the tea has boiled and fermented to this point that you want it. Because that's why it's called killing the grain. Basically, you're stopping the fermentation. Behind there are some pile of blocks, and then over here, after teas are getting stir fried, here they actually roll the tea, and then right behind us, this is where the tea is getting baked. This is machine baked. This is just to bake the tea dry. Now, after this, the tea basically is tea now. This is the rough tea. Depends on the tea. Rough tea, sometimes the rough tea basically doesn't taste much different from the final tea. It basically just means there's still some rough bits in there that needs to be picked. But for cliff tea, rough tea actually comes out of clear water. It doesn't it doesn't have the roasting taste of hot tea yet. So the rough tea for hot tea basically is missing the roasting step. So for certain teas, drinking the rough tea it's even harder to tell whether the quality of the tea. It takes more experience to do that. But a really good tea maker, they had to know that in order to know what later steps they can do to make up for any mistakes they made earlier or any unique flaws of the tea. So we had just one brew of the rough tea, and then the farmer again was saying that it's too hot and it's really just not ready to be drank. So we're now changing to the tea that they made last year, which is the tea that's ready instead of just the rough tea. Yeah, they're saying especially because they can sleep all night long, it's really bad for their health to drink the tea that they just made, the rough tea, even though it hasn't been baked yet. It needs to be wait for at least 6 or 7 days before we can start drinking that. And the one in the pot now is the short leg wulong. 啊？什么？什么东西？表怀疑。锅太热了。锅太热啊。So without even tasting the tea, the older tea maker was saying that this tea does not look right, and the young guy said, "Oh well, the wok was too hot." And also earlier they made a comment about the tea in this region, the half-clear region. There's always this kind of bitterness in the rough tea, not in the finished tea, that you can taste. That's more stringent on the side of your at the tip of your tongue, and they were saying that this is there's nothing they could do about it. It's the tea leaves. No tea making technique could take that away. Of course, with the roasting, all the flaws that they had making the tea in the earlier stage, or the flaws in the fresh tea leaves will be lessened. But still, that's why it's half cliff and not full cliff. And if it's beyond this region, it's even worse, and people here don't want to drink it.